Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64. A lot of stuff is going on in the world. I basically look at the timeline to see where we land on things, but this stuff that's going on, a lot don't know this, but I grew up in Billings, Montana, and there is a balloon that China has surveillance or whatever it is flying. I think it's headed south from Montana, and I'm hearing that there's others out there. And then in Billings, just came out a report of some kind of a sonic boom that happened, and there's a trail of something that happened. We're waiting to find out the news on that. So any other president were in charge, that balloon would have been shot down. It wouldn't have stayed up there. Something big is about to happen. And a part of me thinks that whenever you see something like this and they don't do anything about it, it's because they want us paying attention to something else. In other words, something's coming along that we should be watching, and they're trying to do a sleight of hand to where we don't see what they're doing. I got to get some more tape. That thing's not even staying up there. So as we continue to try to figure this out, there's stuff going on all over the place that's indicating that we've arrived at the time. Since the Revelation 12 sign, I've been watching for a long time, trying to put up timelines for a long time, figure this out. I have never been more convinced that the timeline's honed in like never before. I've tried to figure a lot of these things out previously, and it just wouldn't fall in place. So this one, actually, it seems like every event that I find falls perfectly in place. And I'll go to the timeline again here in a little while, but I think we're looking at this is it. We're looking at the last days here. We know we're in the season. Jesus got upset when he was talking to the Pharisees. You can discern the weather, but you can't see who's standing right in front of you. They missed him. They completely missed him. And as watchers, we're not going to miss him. We're watching, and we're trying to figure this out. And there's 8 billion people on the face of this earth, and I talk to them every day at work and in the streets. I talk, and nobody's watching. Literally no one. So whenever I get a comment saying, you're always wrong, you can't figure this out, you're right. We're always wrong, and we haven't figured it out. But we're doing what we were ordered to do, what we were commanded to do by Jesus, and that is to watch. It didn't say figure it out. It said to watch, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're watching. We're trying to figure it out, but we are watching. We believe that we are within, literally minutes of this rapture. This rapture could occur now, and I'm looking at, honestly, when we have 10 commandments that we follow, and we say 9 of these commandments we will follow because God commanded it, but one of them is a work, so we're not going to do that. When have you ever said that not killing someone is a work? But you will say that obeying the Sabbath is a work. Why is that one commandment slightly different? And I believe, I figured it out, and it says that this Sabbath will be as a sign unto you. And if we don't know when the first Sabbath or the last Sabbath of the year is, setting up the Sabbaths for the following year, if you don't know that, how are you to obey that command? And I believe that we've discovered when that is through the help of so many YouTubers that I've watched and information that I've drawn in and put on this timeline. I believe the last Sabbath of the year is March 16th. It is always March 16th. And I'm going to show you the progression of calendars that we've used throughout history and why they are wrong and why we can't figure this out, and why we continue to have these discussions of, well, it's not that calendar, it's this calendar. No, it's not this calendar, it's that calendar. There's so many calendars. As you remember last year, I put them all on this timeline, every single one of them, and none of them fit. None of them fit like the Enoch timeline does. None of them do. The Enoch timeline fits the best. Am I saying it's the one that is actually the correct one? It's the one that seems to match the best. So let's go into the pictures. This keeps happening to me. I'm sure it's happening to a lot of you. It seems to me that God is trying to tell us something when he continues to show us this. I am not doing this intentionally. I literally am just opening my phone, and this is on there all the time, morning or evening. I just open my phone randomly. Some would say it's your internal clock making this happen, but I'm getting texts at this time. I'm having conversations with my friends, and they say, wow, look at the time on that text, and it's inevitably some variation of 11:11, 6:11, 5:11. It just keeps coming up. That 11 doesn't stop coming up, and I'm going to show you what I think it means as to why we keep seeing this. Somebody sent me this, and I think it was an email. I get a lot of emails, and honestly, I want to say I appreciate all the emails and all the comments. Sometimes I'm at work, and it's a quick answer, and I feel bad because I really want to give a good answer. Texting is very impersonal anyway, so you don't really know the emotion behind the person that's giving the text or the one that's sending the text, and you're trying to give your best response. So sometimes my responses are short, and the bigger the channel gets, and it's really gotten. I never imagined that there would be this many subscribers, honestly. But it has grown way beyond what I ever thought it would be. And again, I do believe that there's going to be a period of time where there's no power or internet, but it's going to come back up, and the people that need it the most are going to be the saints of the tribulation. Remember, we live in the age of grace, and if you come to me and say a myriad of things, from it's a flat earth to we have to go through the tribulation, that's fine, because in my opinion, it doesn't hurt anyone. And the reason it doesn't hurt anyone is because we are in the age of grace. And being in the age of grace means that we are completely reliant upon Jesus for everything, for our salvation, for our want of salvation, for our watching. We're completely reliant upon him because he is the first and the last. He is the starter of everything and the finisher of everything. He is the reason why we do what we do. And it is evident in those that do search for this, whether you just pour over video after video and spend hours a day trying to listen to every single YouTuber to try to glean some information from what they're saying. They're so wonderful. There's people that look at the world, people that look at financials, people that look at dreams, people that look at numbers, people that look at gematria. There's people that do things like run my Discord, for example. There's people in there, Gina, that runs the Discord, and she puts up all this news. I don't even know how she has time for it, but she does. She does all this work in there. And I'll put a link to the Discord. And other people who, and in my opinion, you subscribe to these channels because you subscribe, like, share, and comment because it's going to make it through this rapture that's about to happen, and it's super important. There's a great multitude that no man can count that will appear in heaven. And there's this new thing going around that says the seals was beginning to be opened at the time of Jesus. Now, that's just silly. I don't know where that comes from. We're there to witness the first seal open. We're standing right there as part of the 24 elders. They are those groups of people that we will fall under, like a battalion, like a military, and they're the generals, and we'll fall under a different category of those 24. And so we're there to witness these 24 elders are not going to be, there's not 24 crowns that they're going to cast at the feet of Jesus. There are millions of crowns that are given to the feet of Jesus. Jesus didn't go to the cross for 24 people and then put the rest of us through tribulation. The tribulation has not been happening for 2,000 years. It hasn't been happening for 1,000 years, 500 years. It didn't start happening when the Revelation 12 sign happened. None of these seals have been opened yet. They will not be opened until we're there to witness it. This rapture, what most people don't know, and I have lots of discussions about it, when Jesus rose from the grave, the dead in Christ rose with him. Jesus disappeared that afternoon. He was witnessed throughout the day that he was there, but then he disappeared. He went to heaven. He went to heaven for 7 days. On the self-same day, on the 8th day, the Bible records that he met with Thomas in the upper room. Why were they in that upper room? The Bible records they were in there, locked in. Jesus appeared through a locked door. They were locked in. Why were they locked in? Because they were afraid of the Sadducees. Would they have been afraid if Jesus had been with them for those 7 days? And the answer is no. The second Jesus shows up, you see the reports of them and Jesus walking around for 40 days. That 40 days began to count at the time he met with Thomas in the upper room. From there, you go 40 days, and Ascension Day lands on, let me see if I can even find it on my timeline here. I should put up the timeline on the thing, but Thomas Upper Room. It began on Nisan 24. This is the day that he meets Thomas in the upper room, April the 10th. You go 40 days forward. Jesus ascends in the sight of all these people. On May 20th, Sivan 3, and 3 days later, the Holy Ghost comes down and indwells us, and this is how we function. This is how we function. This is why initially when you're saved, every time you sin, you can't stand it. You don't like that sin anymore. It tears you down. Have you ever met somebody who cheats on their wife and are proud of it? They walk around pridefully. Oh yeah, I got that girl over there. I got that girl. What about your wife? Oh, she doesn't know. It doesn't matter. I do all these things, and they're prideful of it. But then you have somebody who is a Christian who has done this same exact sin, but they're brokenhearted. They feel horrible, and they beat themselves up, and they pray. They do not want this sin. It is different, and that's how you describe a true believer, somebody who is saved. And then watch, the partial rapture does not exist. I would put it like this. There is a rapture of all who have come to Christ, all who profess that Jesus Christ is the only way. They come to the cross bearing nothing. They come to the cross with no works whatsoever. Oh, I got baptized. Oh, I got the oil. I donated money. I did all these things. There is the rich man, and they think that they have something to offer. They are not saved. They are faithful, but they are not saved. So there is no partial rapture. There is a rapture of all those who have come to the cross with nothing. There is another rapture. You will find it in Seal 6. It is a great multitude. These people get palm branches. They are not the bride. They have gone through the Bible records it. They've gone through great tribulation. They've gone through tribulation. They get palm branches. They have had to physically wash their robes white. They are as the thief on the cross. He had to ask. This is a different dispensation now. We have, for the past 2,000 years, have been in this dispensation of grace, which means you can say what you want, you can believe what you want, but at the end of the day, the only way you're going to become a bride and taken out of here is if you have surrendered all of your works and recognized the only way there is through Jesus Christ and all of the work he did. Nothing we did, nothing of ourselves. All of our works are as filthy rags, the Bible records. But The elect, and it's the wheat and the chaff. They look identical. You can't tell them, but tell them apart. But there's something that happens when it comes time for harvest. The wheat will bend over. The chaff will stand up straight and proud. It will not bend over. It will not bow to Jesus. But the wheat will. It bends over. And that's the difference. You cannot tell it apart. You cannot go in and weed it out. You can't sit there and point your finger at somebody and say, you're going to be saved, but you're not saved yet. You can't do that because we don't know. The Bible warns us, you can't tell the difference. Leave it alone. Let God, let him do it. God will do it. He'll fix it. He'll straighten it all out. How horrifying to make the statement, and this is horrifying, and people do it every day, and it's just terrible. You're going to be raptured, and then everyone who's left is going to hell. But before they go to hell, let's just annihilate them. And if anybody's lucky enough, if they prepped well enough and have dug a cave deep enough and have enough food and water, and they make it through this period of tribulation, and they emerge at the end of 7 years, they're going to go into the millennium. This is just literally inconscionable to even think about such a thing. It's not the way it works. No. There is a group of people, massive group of people, a number no man can count, out of which God is going to take the bride. And then there's this group of people, massive group of people, a number that no man can count, that is going to go to heaven. They're going to wash their robes white, and they're going to do this during a new dispensation, a dispensation of tribulation. The tribulation, the purpose of it, it is not to beat you up and punish you and put you through it and then cast you into hell. That's just the silliest thing I've ever heard. I don't even know where that comes from. I've been studying too long to even contemplate such an idea. So at some point during the 7-year tribulation, and the more I read and the more I study, I am almost convinced, just like Elisha and Alicia, the second, and Elisha told him very clearly, if you see me go, when this rapture happens, turn down the lights really, there I am. When turn down the light, when the rapture happens, the second the rapture happened, the second that Elijah went, Elisha saw it, and what did he do? The very second he dropped to his knees, the Bible records, and he tears off the world, and he puts on the cloak that Elijah was wearing. It's instantaneous. It is instantaneous that happens. And who didn't see him go? The 50 prophets did not see him go. As a matter of fact, they went out into the mountains searching for his body, that God might have dropped him somewhere, because they did not believe in the rapture. Oh, they knew they were gone. Just like what's going to happen in this world. It's a perfect example. It couldn't be a better story. We're going to disappear, and they're going to be searching everywhere. They will not have a clue as to where we went. Maybe they're going to go up on the mountains and see if we were dropped on a mountain. I don't know. But the tribulation is designed to turn men's, women's hearts to Jesus and realize that this is the only way out. And so many that will see and know, and that's your job. That's your job. Your job is not to save somebody from being a tribulation saint. Your job is not to save somebody from making it through the tribulation and going into the millennium as a human so that they can be tempted again at the end. Your job is to save the people that are going to hellfire. Your job is to save, not save, you're not saving anybody, but to warn is a better word. Your job is to warn those people who are destined for the lake of fire. You are to work to save, to warn those people that destination is hellfire. I don't have arguments with people who insist that we go through the 7-year tribulation. I don't want to say I don't waste my time. It doesn't matter to me because they're saved. They are a great multitude. They outnumber us by a lot. The bride is a peculiar group of people. It's a small group taken out of that main harvest. The Bible clearly specifies that there are three. There's the gleanings, the first fruits. There's the main harvest where all of it comes in. And then there's the corners that he comes back at the very end and he harvests that. And those are what go into the millennium. I see two raptures, and I see a group of people going into the millennium. God will resurrect many unto eternal life and many unto eternal damnation. And those who were resurrected to life, I think, go into the millennium. And they're human. They can die. They get tempted at the end. So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about, and they posted in there, and that's fine. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about them saying that we're going to go through the tribulation. They might very well be right. But the tribulation is not the end. It is not the end. The rapture of the bride is just the beginning of this journey that we're about to take over the course of 7 years. And honestly, our job is to warn so that when this rapture of the bride happens, that they might see it and that they might know, and they might take that coat, that armor of God, the protection of Jesus, and put it on. And that's why, as I study the six seals, I don't think it takes 3.5 years to open them up. I really think the six seals are possibly opened up in 6 days or 5 months or some variation within there, because the 7 years, Jacob's trouble, is turned back to Israel, and it doesn't say anything in there about this great multitude. This great multitude goes on seal 6. It literally, you see the bride go, you see these seals being opened, and then you see the saints of the tribulation go. And so that's my opinion. And am I concerned about saving somebody from being a saint? No, I am concerned about warning people about hell, that when this event does transpire, and it will very soon, actually, from what we can see going on around us, it's going to happen very soon. When that event does occur, that they might see it happen, which means they will know what happened. And if they know what happened, they will take that armor and put it on. And that's my main concern. My main concern is for the saints, to warn you to not take that mark, suffer all the way up to the point of death, and you will find yourself in heaven and recognize that all of your works were for nothing. Our works are identical to their works. We do the same exact works. The reason we do those works is because it's fruit of the salvation that we have received. And the reason they do those works is because it's a work that they do to get into heaven. However, they are saved. And that's not a partial rapture. Everyone who is going to go in this rapture of the bride is going to go. And everyone who has works on them, thinking that that is what's going to save them, will enter into tribulation. And instantly, in my opinion, based on that story from Elijah and Alicia, instantly, Elisha dropped to his knees and tore his clothes off. So I wanted to go through that. I want to remind you, this arguing back and forth over this and that, these silly things, are a waste of time, even to you saints who insist that the tribulation is, that we're going to go through it. And that's fine if that's what you believe. You outnumber us. There's a lot of you that think that. Your job is not to convince the bride that we're going to go through tribulation with you. Your job is to worry about these people who are going to go to hell, who have never heard anything. And that's why I say subscribe to these channels that I give you, and like, comment, share, and subscribe, not because of any other reason than the algorithm will exist when the internet comes back up after this rapture, and somebody is going to find one of these videos, and they're going to understand that Jesus is the only way, and that is my purpose and the reason I'm even here, the reason I even do this. I don't collect money. I've never asked anybody for a dime. I don't earn a dime off of this. I spent an exorbitant amount of time putting this together all by myself, and I don't have any editors. You can see I don't have any technology. I handwrite everything. It's by any stretch of the imagination, it's horrible. And why I have so many subscribers and it's growing so fast is beyond me except God. That's the only thing I can think of, because there literally is no reason except God, and that's the purpose of all this. And I think the message is not so much the timeline and when this is going to happen. It's more about the message that we have to warn the saints. We got the greatest command of all that Jesus gave us is to love one another, and the only way to do that properly and accurately is to warn everyone that this event's going to happen. And the last place we want anyone to go is to the lake of fire. We don't want that. We want as many people. And when I say saved, we're not saving anybody. God is saving them. But He is enlisting us and using us to warn them. And saints, you're here and you're going through tribulation, and you know it because you say it all the time that that's what's going to happen. And I am not against you in any kind of way. I am not against you. This is exactly what you see, and this is exactly what you should see. But don't waste your time trying to convince the group of people that don't think we're going through tribulation. Waste your time trying to worry about these people that are going to go into the lake of fire if they don't see what's happened. The 50 prophets did not see Elijah taken away. Elisha did. If they had seen it, they would have gotten that mantle as well, but they didn't see it, because had they seen it, they would have seen him go to heaven, but they didn't. So they were out searching for him, that he might be dropped on a mountaintop. So, all right, let me get into the pictures. That's my speech. All right. Somebody sent me this, I think, in an email or maybe on Discord. I don't recall. But these are all the passages that he found that are similar. They're all in John. My favorite, you can see on the third one down. No man comes to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up in the last day. Now, a lot of people use this to state that we're not going to go up until the last day, and the last day is at the end of the tribulation, and that's fine if that's the way you view that. I think the last day is the last day of the period of grace, in my opinion, and then a new last day will be at the end of the tribulation where the saints go, and then the next new last day, the new dispensation, will be at the end when Jesus destroys evil, locks it in hell, and starts the millennium. And then there's another last day at the end of the millennium where Satan is loosed to tempt those that are in the millennium, those that can be tempted. We can't be tempted. We'll never be tempted again. We will get a perfect body. We will live forever. We will never be sick, cold, hungry, tired. We will never be sad. It will be bliss in every kind of possible way. The best day you've ever had on this planet in your life, the best, most happiest day, go there, and it pales by comparison as to what heaven will be like. It's going to be perfectly blissful in every way. So anyway, he found these 4 passages. Or she, I don't recall. I'm sorry. Go to this website here if you're so inclined. And again, I'm not trying to save anyone from being a saint. You're saved and you're going to heaven, in my opinion, just at a slightly different time. But you're going to heaven. So go to this website here if you would like to. They've listed 36 pre-trib rapture texts, and this gentleman has done it. It's called RaptureReady.com. And I was going to go through the whole thing, but the more I think about it, the more I think, this is something God has decided, and which is why people are the way they are. Now, this is the word I was searching for last week when I was making my video. Rosh Chodesh literally means head of the month. It does not mean new moon. Now, they do have a picture of the new moon up there. but it does not mean new moon. In the English translation, they have translated it as new moon. In the Latin translation, they have translated it as new month. So it is, again, debatable. I don't believe that a month begins on the moon. The moon does not line up properly. The moon literally goes around our planet 354 days a year, 12 times 354 days. It falls 10 days short, and there's a strict warning about this in Enoch. So I don't believe in using the moon whatsoever, and I think we found the Sabbath. That keeps happening. Now, something new I found. Remember, I've been working on when Jesus was born and when he went to the cross and all the different proofs, and I found number 6 the other day. As a matter of fact, I was listening to Dr. Barry All when he made the statement that Jesus had been here for 33 and a half years, and I thought, you know what? Every date I find is perfect in every way. It's not 9 days, it's not 4 days, it's exactly 7 days, it's exactly 40 days, it's exactly 40 weeks, it's perfect in every way. So why wouldn't his date on the cross be perfect in every way? Perfect. So if Jesus was in fact born, like I said in my proof here, on September the 29th, and from what I can tell, and I'm still narrowing down the year, but it looks like it's either 2 or 3 BC. If he was born on September the 29th in 2 or 3 BC, the date of the cross would be a perfect 6 months. They say he was here for 33 years and 6 months. So if he came here, if he was born on September the 29th, the 182 days would be a perfect 6 months. And that would land on March 30th, which is what I've been saying for quite some time is the date that Jesus went to the cross. The date never changes. No more than your birthday changes each year. It does not change. It always falls on that date. Let's go into the timeline for a second and I'll show you. Proof, and I showed you this last time. I'll go through it real quickly here. Proof, proof number 1. Mary conceived, and it just so happens to fall on December the 25th. I know it falls on December the 25th because exactly to the very day, 40 weeks later, 280 days, a perfect gestation period of a baby, is exactly falls on September the 29th, when I think he was born. September the 29th is Tabernacles. He comes to tabernacle with us. He comes here on Tabernacles. The day Sukkot begins on September the 29th. This year, well, last year, at the end of 2022, was the very first time we got proof of this birth, because Mary would have been unclean for 40 days. She would have had her cycle for 40 days. She stays unclean for 40 days for a male child and 80 days for a female child. So, 40 days from the date that I think he was born on September the 29th was the blood moon. And remember how the blood moon was a blood moon until it eclipsed over Uranus. And as it did, the very moments as it eclipsed over Uranus, it went from blood red to white again. November the 8th, down here, 40 days she was unclean. And that exactly happened on November the 8th. I did not write it down because I was confused as to why that blood moon would have landed 2 days after Pentecost and 2 days before the date Noah leaves the ark. It was a standalone day, a day by itself, and it just didn't make sense until this dawned on me. Proof number 2. For women, the egg gets fertilized and travels down the tube and goes into the uterus and attaches itself to the wall. This happens at any point between 4 and 13 days. For Jesus, it would have been 7 days. This is the day that Mary had traveled from where she was when the angel told her that Elizabeth is 6 months pregnant. She traveled for a week. I did the math on how far she had to go, and I figured it took her about a week. She's newly pregnant. She gets to see her cousin. At the point she gets there, Jesus is now attached to the uterine wall, and John is leaping in the womb, happy that Jesus is there. Life starts at conception. Number 3, Jesus is born on Tabernacles. Tabernacles is always Tishri 15. It always lands on September the 29th. His birthday doesn't change any more than yours and mine does. It had to fall on an event. It had to fall on an event where 8 days later there would be another event. This does not happen back here where everyone thinks that it happened on Feast of Trumpets, because there is no event 8 days later. There is an event 10 days later called Yom Kippur, but there is no event 8 days later. It would have to fall on September the 29th. And 8 days later, the 8th great day, Jesus was named by his stepfather and mother on the last day of Tabernacles, the 8th great day on October the 6th, Tishri 22. That's proof number 4. And I just found, and proof number 5 down here is the blood moon. And I just mentioned that Jesus came into this world on September the 29th, and exactly to the very day, 6 months later, Jesus, 33 years and 6 months, we all surmise, I've heard it over and over, 33 and a half. There he is. Jesus goes to the cross. Exactly 182 days later. He was born, I believe, in either 2 or 3 BC on September the 29th, and 33 years and 182 days later, he died on 30 AD on March 30th. We know it's 30 AD. They don't have no records of Jesus. They didn't keep any records at all. This is why we struggle to try to figure this out. I believe I did. I have figured it out. But we do have a record of the temple being destroyed in 70 AD and Jesus stating that he would tear the temple down. And so it was, in fact, torn down 40 years later in 70 AD, which is why we are inclined to believe that 30 AD is the year that Jesus, in fact, died on the cross on March 30th, exactly 182 days later. So let me get out of this. And this is the shout out that I do. Please go subscribe to these channels. This guy is brand new. He has 123 subscribers, but he's awesome. You will love his videos. He literally has short videos, unlike mine. And I listen to his videos, and he just gets into the scripture. He studies it, and he explains it. He does a very good job. I really love his channel. I would really like it if you'd go subscribe to it and get back to the basics of learning about them. Again, we all have our different attributes. We're different parts of the body, but we are all one, and God has given each of us a different gift, and this guy definitely has a gift for discerning the Bible. And I just love listening to him go through these different aspects he has. He'll, like, Jesus existed, and he'll go through all these, and then he'll start a new topic, and he'll have a short video of 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 2 minutes, and go through these things. And he'll do it like every 30 minutes. He'll do one. It's fantastic. I got to catch up, actually. I Heart Yeshua. This is a new one also, only 196 subscribers, and she's doing very well. I'm trying to remember, again, I'm sorry, I watch a lot of videos and subscribe to a lot of them. All you have to say is Jesus Christ is God Almighty, came here, was born of a virgin, died on a cross for your sins, and that I will subscribe to you. It's that simple. Everything else is us just trying to figure this out. This is the intimacy that we share as we try to figure it out. But anyway, go subscribe to her channel. And let's see. Oh, everyone should be subscribed to Ricardo. He's from... And he's got quite a bit of turmoil going on down there where he's at in Brazil. Sorry, from Brazil. He speaks Portuguese. I speak Spanish, so I cannot understand his broadcast. But he'll do 2 broadcasts. He'll do one in Portuguese, and he'll do one in English, and he does a very good job. We are not on the same dates, but I don't care. He loves Jesus, and he's trying to figure it out, and I love watching his take on this stuff as he tries to go throughout his. Now, I want to go through the calendars real quick. What was the first calendar? The Enoch was the first calendar. The Enoch calendar is shown in the first book of Enoch and was given by the angel Uriel, and is the original priestly calendar that was used in the Torah. The Enoch calendar is a 12-month solar calendar having 364 days only. Remember, I told you a sidereal day, the Earth does its revolutions and is not pointing at the sun at the very end. In order to point at the sun, it would take another day and quarter to point directly at the same spot on the planet each year, which is why the Enoch timeline has 364 days, and to regulate that, God gave Joshua's one long day, so that the same point of the planet would be pointing at the sun. And it was used by the antediluvian patriarchs and by Noah, Abraham, and Jacob. It was taught to Moses by the angel Yah and is continued in effect through the Second Temple period of Ezra and Nehemiah. It was the official Hebrew calendar until the 2nd century BC, so 200 years before Christ came. That's the calendar that was used. Now, King Antiochus, fourth Epiphanes, ended the use of the Enoch calendar and forced the Hebrew people to observe the lunar calendar. So calendar number 1 is the Enoch calendar. It uses the sidereal day of 364 days. And then comes along this king that forces them to use what calendar? The moon calendar, because they worship the moon. So they worship the new moon. Now, this is so old that people believe that this is the calendar that we should skip back to. But it is not. The new moon calendar was the official calendar of the Greeks. And when Alexander the Great conquered the Middle East in the 4th century BCE, 400 years before Christ, the lunar calendar was introduced and was gradually accepted by most of the people except for the Hebrew people. In 172 BC, King Antiochus appointed Menelaus as Jerusalem's high priest to introduce a Greek way of educating the young people and to completely Hellenize the Hebrew people. He also sent a senator from Athens to give the Hebrew people an ultimatum to forsake the laws of their God and to follow the king's orders or to be put to death. So most of the Hebrew people followed the king's orders to save their families, and many were put to death. King Antiochus forced the Hebrew people to celebrate the birthday of the month every month at the time of the moon's first visibility. Hephaestus of Thebes was an astrologer in the 5th century CE, who, I guess that's Common Era BC, who compiled the historical Hellenistic astrology records and research called, oh my goodness, these big words, epithalomatics. Hephaestus quotes King Antiochus saying the new moon is the time when the moon is born and is the birthday of the month, which we know is not true. The month does not have 29 days. The year does not have 354 days ever. It just doesn't. So we do not observe the moon. That was the first calendar, was the Enoch calendar. Then they went to the moon calendar, and then something happened here. That calendar was in effect 400 BC. A new calendar came into effect in 46 BC, just before Jesus came on the scene. Well, to earth. He was always on the scene. He's the eternal God, so to earth. The Julian calendar proposed by Roman consul Julius Caesar. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and render unto God what is God's, right? So in 46 BC was a reform of the Roman calendar. It took effect on January 1st, Guess what? That's where January 1st came from. It came from Caesar. This is the calendar that everybody is looking at. It's called the Julian Calendar. This calendar was brought about by Julius Caesar. Remember Julius Caesar, right? It took effect on January 1st, 45 BC by edict, and it was designed with the aid of Greek mathematicians and astronomers such as the Sadducees of Alexandria. The calendar became a predominant calendar in the Roman Empire and subsequently most of the Western world for more than 1,600 years. So we have a new calendar. This calendar observes a 365.25 day, and it was observed for over 1,600 years, but we do recall what happened in 1582. Now the Catholic Church has a hold of it. The Catholic Church comes in with yet another calendar. Pope Gregory, the 13th, promulgated, is that right? 30? Yeah, I got to learn my Roman numerals. Promulgated a minor modification, which means, and here's why, the Julian calendar does not match. Julius Caesar's calendar does not match the Gregorian calendar because in 1582, they changed it from a 365.25 days to 365.2425 days, which means there's 0.75 days a year, which means over a period of time, the calendar, the Julian calendar or the Julius Caesar calendar, would have drifted and it was inaccurate. And that's why in 1582, the Pope took away 10 days from the calendar. Did he take away or add? I think he took away 10 days from the calendar so that he could realign the Gregorian calendar with the solstice. That's when he did it. He did this in October, and he realigned the solstice so that it would fall on the date they wanted. They were still, Gregorian calendar was still using Julius Caesar's calendar from 1,600 years earlier, but they noticed a drift, so they fixed it by moving those 10 days. Since then, since 1582, the Julian calendar, or the Julius Caesar calendar that a lot of people are watching, has drifted. It's still drifting, and that's why January 1st does not match up with the Julian calendar because it drifts. It is off by 0.75 days per year, and over the last 400 years, 450 years, it has drifted more days. So that's why February the 3rd in the Gregorian is January the 21st on the Julius Caesar calendar. So we've got quite a few calendars to go through, but the first one was Enoch. And the most accurate, when it resets every single year, it resets on March the 16th. It is the one commandment that we had a hard time obeying because we didn't understand that it was obeying the law if we obeyed that commandment. The commandment that March 16th is the last Sabbath of every year, and the new year begins always on March 17th. Always. It never changes. It never has. It never will. And if you know when the Sabbath is, then you can map out your entire year of all these festivals and land on the correct date each year. Rosh Hashanah, remember I showed you Rosh Chodesh? That was the beginning of the month, not the beginning of the new moon, but the beginning of the month. And that was called Rosh Chodesh. Well, Rosh Hashanah is called beginning of the year, head of the year. Now remember in Exodus 12, God commanded Moses to change the head of the year from September the 15th to March the 17th. When Jesus got the news that Lazarus had died, he died on March the 16th on the last Sabbath. Jesus did not budge for 2 days. Why didn't he move? There is a law that they cannot do any traveling or any business, and it's still in existence today. Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day holiday which celebrates the start of the new year according to the Jewish calendar. Businesses across Israel will be closed on both days, so bear in mind if you are in Israel during that period. Now, they will do this in September, but that is no longer Rosh Hashanah. We can all go to Exodus 12 and read it. The head of the year was moved to March the 17th, and when Lazarus died, Jesus stayed still for 2 days because Jesus did not come to change the law or break the law. He came to fulfill it. And everyone wonders, why didn't Jesus go at the moment he was told that Lazarus died? It's not that he couldn't. He wrote the law. He wrote it on purpose, and Lazarus died on March the 16th on purpose, and he sat there for 2 days on purpose, trying to show us now why he did that. I've heard 1,000 explanations as to why he didn't move during that 2-day period. Why didn't he just go down there? Oh, well, it's because he wanted to show this. No, it was a sign for us, and that's why. Because now we know when Rosh Hashanah is. It was moved by Moses to the head of the year to March 17th, and he sat there for 2 days. And on March the 20th, he raised Lazarus. So March the 16th, March the 17th, and then on the 20th, he raised Lazarus. So March the 18th, he began to travel, and he gets to him on March the 20th, and he raises him. That's what the 2-day wait was for. He couldn't, well, I say couldn't, he's God, he could, but he wouldn't break the law. He adhered to it, and that's why everyone was confused by why he just sat there, and that's why he couldn't, he wouldn't. Oh, I got that. I don't know what that. This is sent to me in an email. I see February the 10th, 2023 in those numbers. I don't know. He sent it to me, and I'm not good at this, so I sent it over to some friends, Mike, so that they could look at it. Perhaps they would understand. 200 one time in the first 200 million digits of pi, counting from the first. This is it's above my pay grade, but I'll send it over to some friends to take a look at it. So that's my whole thing. I want you to know that I firmly believe, and I've been wrong before, so take it with a grain of salt. But I firmly believe that March the 16th, the last Sabbath, a sign unto us, is the date that either the dead in Christ rise, or again, God's appointed time. He has 7 feasts, but I think there's going to be an 8th. I think there's going to be a celebration, an 8th feast for the bride. I really do. There's going to be a date where our birth date, we're going to be born again. And I think that that's going to be a standalone day happening from this very second right now up to March the 16th, or even the cross, perhaps. We'll be surprised if we make it that far. And so many new evidences are coming out with everything that's going on around us. I mean, any other president would have shot that balloon down. You got to be kidding me right now. I mean, seriously, you got to be kidding me. They're just letting this thing fly across our country, and they're not doing a thing about it. I mean, hey, I've heard so many people say when the bombs come down, we go up. I mean, there's something's brewing. There's no way that any other sitting president would have allowed that balloon to float across our country. So anyway, RepoMan64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Go to a quiet place. We're at a time. I'm trying to warn people about the lake of fire, and it literally is as simple as coming to Christ with nothing to offer. When I talk to people, I cringe talking to Christians because they know it all. I love talking to somebody that knows absolutely nothing and tell them all these wonderful stories and alignments and things that are going on and birthdays of Jesus and the day of the cross and all these things. They're the most receptive to me, and at least the way I talk. Christian that has already got it all figured out and has nothing to learn from anyone is, for me, the hardest one to talk to. But they're saved. They are saved. I won't sit here and say they're not. So I'm not going to go to war with another Christian, but I will worry about those who've heard nothing and try to warn them to be prepared, because this day is coming at any moment, and it's going to be something else. Pray that you are Elisha, and that you've heard somebody like me somewhere out there tell you to be prepared for this. And you could always do the most craziest idea and just listen to God calling you, because God's speaking through a lot of people, and He's calling you to go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody, and accept Him into your heart, and just watch the change happen. I can tell you, I'm not the same person I was whenever He called me. John 6:44. He called me. He drew me, and there is no place that I'd rather be than right here with Him and doing this and trying to figure this out. I don't do this for any other reason than to try to figure it all out. So I guess we'll chat with you all again later. Again, I'm literally in awe over the news and the things that are going on right now. You just, like Chad over at Watchman on the Wall 88, you just can't make this stuff up. This is absolutely amazing what's going on, and you can't deny what's happening. Go subscribe to as many channels as you can. Like, comment, and share those channels so that it's out there. When you share them and you like them, the algorithm is produced. Power does go out, but the internet's going to come back up. It's going to come back up. And they can't scrub it if it's everywhere. So, that dog riding a skateboard that had 5 million views, I don't care how hard you scrub that, it's going to be in somebody's phone somewhere recorded, and they will reshare it. So that's why this is so important. We're worried about those people. We're not worried about the saints. We aren't worried about those going to the millennium. We're worried about those who've never heard the first word about this, and we got to warn them. And the more, like I literally have a subscriber that emailed me and said, I don't know how or why you came across my feed. I've never heard anything like this kind of stuff before, but they went to a quiet place and they accepted the Lord. And it's just like, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what this is all about. Just one person, if just one person, And so they just don't know how it came to their feet, and I know how. It was a very large video. I know which video it was. It got 80,000 views. It was huge, and it got a lot of likes and shares, and it wound up in somebody's feed that would have never seen it before. And by the work you all did, by doing what you did, as far as sharing it and watching it and liking it and commenting, the algorithm was created big enough to wind up in somebody's feed who otherwise would have never watched the first Christian video. So that's the power that you guys have, and that's what I look forward to. That's my motivation right there, is to get to those people who've never heard the first word. Teaching Christians the best I can with whatever knowledge I have is obviously fantastic, but to reach that one person who's never heard a single word of this stuff, go, wow, this is crazy. So, but I've been a really bad person. I mean, I've done some terrible things. God doesn't want me. He's never going to forgive me. I've done this. I've done that. It's the hardest thing to hear. And you know where they hear it from? They hear it in church. You're terrible, you're bad. If you don't donate money, if you don't do this, you have to do this, you have to do that. It is the most horrendous thing I've ever heard. You can be saved. Anybody can. All you have to do is ask. It's a free gift. The Bible, it literally translates good news. It's the good news. It's the easiest thing that everybody thinks is the hardest thing. It's the easiest thing. So anyway, we'll chat with you later. Repo Man 64. Maybe not. Hopefully we go.